Hi. How are we doing? All right, smiles, eye contact, some thumbs. Okay, good. No casualties yet. How about Zoom folks? How are you doing? Ooh, they're an enthusiastic bunch. So for those of you who are new to this container, and I know we have quite a number of brand new folks, this is the talk part of the container. You've been given a couple hours to still your mind, and so I'm going to make sure that doesn't continue by just saying a bunch of stuff to confuse you and essentially stir up the waters that you have so carefully been trying to still. It's a strange part of the tradition. In some lineages of Zen, there is no talk. In some lineages of Zen, there aren't meetings with the teacher. It's just, walking, sitting, walking, sitting, walking, sitting. And there's an argument to be made for that style, for that kind of family tradition. There's also an argument to be made for this family tradition. The point of the talk, from my point of view, is much less about giving you information that you don't have. You have everything you need. It's certainly not about expounding any great cosmic truth that you're supposed to benefit from. That would be a very intimidating thing for me to try to do. The way I've always understood this is when folks go into retreat and they spend some time cultivating a presence to themselves, that's not always a smooth ride. And so sometimes it's kind, perhaps, or helpful just to hear somebody say something supportive. That's kind of what I see the meetings upstairs as too. So if that's what you're needing, you have it. You're not alone in the room. You're not alone in the virtual room. You're not alone on this planet. It is very safe to say that there are 8 billion other carbon-based bipeds who are struggling just as much as you are. Perhaps a little more, perhaps a little less today. Next week you guys can take turns. They can struggle more than you can struggle more than them, but that's the deal. So we're not alone in that. That seems to matter to us. I find that fascinating. That suffering creates the illusion of separation, and that to be reminded that we are not separate gives us comfort. I'm like deeply, deeply fascinated by that. I'm suffering. You're not alone. Oh, thank you. Why does that help? It shouldn't. My suffering is still the same. Why does it actually help for me to know that I'm not alone? I don't have an answer for you, but I find that deeply fascinating. Probably because I've been sitting in this room for a long time and I've been studying this particular tradition for a long time, and because the thing that's always the highest on the altar here, metaphorically or physically, is compassion. Zen Buddhism is a part of Mahayana Buddhism, the great vehicle Buddhism, and our highest ideal is compassion, to be with suffering. So it fascinates me that, intuitively we know the truth of non-separateness, the truth of being with each other, the truth of hanging out with the thing that hurts, the person that hurts, matters. It seems to have a healing and a transformative effect. So much so that in our tradition we call it enlightenment. If you want to know the nature of love, the nature of enlightenment, the functioning of perfect wisdom in the field of space and time, in our tradition it shows up as, oh, you hurt too. Me too. Let's be kind to that together. That's the highest Dharma. Isn't that fascinating? We're not asserting anything about the nature of the universe. That's not an assertion. That's just based on experience. Oh, I'm not alone. Neither are you. Oh, wow. Maybe interconnectedness is real. Maybe interbeing is actually true. Maybe breathing together matters. Further, maybe knowing with full awareness that we're breathing together matters. Maybe even that's why we come to these rooms. We're going to be doing it anyway, breathing together, living together, walking together, hurting together, feeling cloth against our skin together, feeling the pull of gravity together, feeling the reassuring rhythm of the beat inside of our heart together. It's going to happen anyway. But perhaps we come to these rooms to be reminded, oh, you can be aware that that's happening. Wouldn't that be great? It'd be like coming back to your life. It'd be like coming back to your life. And when you come back to your life, you come back to everybody's life. 37 beating hearts today in this retreat. 37 beating hearts. One of us had to leave already. He's still in the retreat. His heart is still beating. His heart is still beating. His lungs are still breathing. He's still feeling pain. He's still feeling hope. He's part of the retreat. Good luck leaving the retreat. Yeah. Even at 5 o'clock. When we're done setting up the Zendo for tomorrow, and the bell rings and Mark says, get out of here. You're free. You rascals, you've gotten your money's worth. Off you go. You can't leave. Right? Of course you can leave. But there's nowhere to go. It's your life. You're just going to carry it with you. Wow. But you're going to know you're doing it. My God, what a gift to the world that is. One more person who just wanted to know. So thank you. Thank you. What the heck am I talking about? So what I'm talking about is this picture. I thought it might be fun to have a little souvenir. Everybody gets a souvenir today. You can take this home with you. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll talk about the souvenir. That'll, So if anything comes out of my mouth that's of help to you, great. If not, pitch it. Don't worry about it. Yeah. You don't have to pay attention to me. I'm just giving you a picture, and then I'm going to talk about it. So like the picture, don't like the picture, recycle it, keep it, frame it, send me a check made out to me. It doesn't matter. I'll teach you how to spell my name later. It doesn't matter. But this is what we're going to talk about today. We're just playing in the sandbox, okay? This is a photograph of Manjushri Bodhisattva. It is on my mind because I am in the middle right now of teaching a class on emptiness. I'm teaching a class on emptiness. I'm teaching a class on the teachings of Nagarjuna and the school of Buddhism that we call Madhyamaka. And so we're reading the Mula Madhyamaka Karika together. Did you hear how smoothly I just said that? Yeah. Yeah, that's right. A little flex there. A little flex there. Ooh. Woo. Mula Madhyamaka Karika. Oh my God, I must be so smart. The class is on emptiness, and it's a wonderful thing to study. It's a wonderful thing to read about. It's a wonderful thing to try to teach. It's hilariously difficult to try to teach because you can't get outside of it. We have to kind of try to get outside of something in order to study it, and you kind of can't get outside of emptiness. So how the hell are you supposed to study it? Well, I try to remind myself you can't fail at this show, right? Because the voice in my head is like, there's no way you can succeed in teaching emptiness, which is true. Give me a break, right? But because I'm teaching a class on emptiness, because one of the handouts for the folks in my class on emptiness is this image, I thought, oh, that's what I'll talk about on Saturday at the retreat. I've already done my homework. I'll just riff a little bit. So what I want to call attention to first is the title of this. The title of this, the title of this statue is Manjushri with Prajnaparamita. Some of those words make sense to some of the people in this room. Some of you may not understand either of those words. Manjushri is the main figure there. The being, we call that being a bodhisattva, an enlightening being, a being committed to the awakening of all beings. And in particular, Manjushri, bodhisattva, The function of Manjushri Bodhisattva is wisdom. Wisdom. That's the wisdom bodhisattva, the embodiment of wisdom in our tradition, right? Traditionally in a Zen, in a Soto Zen Zendo, Manjushri, who's on the altar, we do not do that here. We used to. We don't have him up there now. I say him because generally that's the pronoun, but if you look at the image, you can see they go pretty far out of their way to say it's just a being. So sometimes it's a she, sometimes it's a he, sometimes it's both, sometimes it's neither. Bodhisattvas don't care. They show up as squirrels and pots and pans and cars and humans and cats and floors, because that's the nature of bodhisattvas. So this is the bodhisattva of wisdom, and the reason this image is called Manjushri with Prajnaparamita is because Prajnaparamita is the name of his sword. Sometimes Manjushri is depicted as having a scroll. Manjushri with Prajnaparamita. Prajnaparamita shows up as a scroll. Some of you have probably seen that image. Some of you have probably also heard what is on the scroll. Does anybody want to field that one? Who in this room knows what's on the scroll? Prajnaparamita. Okay, nobody? How many people in this room have seen Kung Fu Panda? There's the Forest of Hands. Do you remember what was on the dragon scroll at the end of the movie? The secret ingredient. Come on, you guys, the big reveal of the movie. Nothing. The scroll is empty. That is correct. Whoever wrote that movie stole from us. I want residuals. I'll tell them who to make the check out to. The scroll of Prajnaparamita is empty. So Prajnaparamita shows up as an empty scroll. Prajnaparamita shows up as a sword. Prajnaparamita shows up as a goddess. Prajnaparamita shows up in one sutra as a single letter. The shortest expression of the Prajnaparamita sutras is one letter, the letter A. Prajnaparamita shows up as the mantra that we end the Heart Sutra with, right? Gate, gate. So Prajnaparamita means the perfection of wisdom. The perfection of wisdom. And the reason she is so flexible and can show up as an empty scroll or a sword or a letter or a chant or a cat or the floor or the beating organ inside of your chest is because she is empty, which means she's everything. Right? She's empty of own being, self-nature, or separateness. Right? The Sanskrit word there is, I haven't practiced, this is one the way I practiced Mula Madhyamaka Karika, because this one isn't as impressive. The word is Vibhaha, essence, own being, inherent existence, or separateness. So here's why I want to talk about this picture today. Number one, I think it's pretty. I think she looks cool. And here's what struck me about her. My guess is we could probably give Dharma talks about this statue for a good year at MZMC. But here's what struck me today, and here's what I thought would be the most helpful to folks who are in retreat. I'm going to talk about his body. I'm going to talk about his smile. And I'm going to talk about his sword. I'm going to talk about her body, I'm going to talk about her smile, and I'm going to talk about her sword. First is the body, because that body that you are looking at is stable. You can actually feel it, can't you, when you look at that? It's an incredible statue. I just love it. You can feel how grounded she is. You can tell that he is relaxed. Can you see it? I mean, you can actually see. That's relaxed. That is relaxed, it is stable, and it is upright. So that is the posture of Zazen. Sometimes that uprightness is literal. Usually it is. For most of us, that's a literal, physical uprightness. Sometimes not. Sometimes it's a metaphorical uprightness. We do Zazen lying down. We do Zazen walking. We do Zazen bathing. Sometimes it's movement. Sometimes the stability doesn't mean not moving still. Sometimes the stability is metaphorical. You've all experienced feeling stable while you were moving, just like you've all experienced feeling very unstable when you were sitting still. You've probably experienced that today. Stable, relaxed, and upright. Stable, relaxed, and upright. Probably nothing else to say about that. But if you're working with your body today, if your body is giving you some pain messages today, discomfort, if you're not used to sitting still for a prolonged period of time, this might be helpful. Relax. It's okay. Remind yourself of your contact with the earth. You can always feel that. Your feet, or the back of your chair, your cushion, your knees, your feet, whatever. Just remind yourself of how you're being held. That can sometimes be helpful to us. So the second thing I want to talk about is the smile. Very typical in Buddhist iconography, in paintings, in drawings, in sculptures, in our Buddhist tradition. We're pretty used to seeing it. Bodhisattvas, Buddhas, saints, enlightened beings are usually depicted as having that faint sort of half smile. The corners of the mouth go up. Right? That works for me. I don't know if that works for you. But that really works for me. It works for me for a bunch of reasons. I think primarily because when I finally understood, when I first came to Buddhism, I'm like, oh, if you go to the MIA or something like that, right, the Institute of Arts, and you see the floor of Buddhist imagery, the paintings and the drawings and the sculptures, and they all have this half smile, half smile, half smile, half smile. And you learn a little bit about the tradition and go, oh, all those are awakening beings. Like they're Buddhas, they're Bodhisattvas, these are people who have woken up. They're expressions of the enlightened mind. They're expressions of beings who have seen so fundamentally into the nature of creation itself that they understand, they see it. They're cracked open and they see it. And so their response to the nature of reality itself is a smile. I really need to know that. That really helps me. Right? Especially because if you study the tradition, you know the Four Noble Truths. You know where everything starts. This is Buddhism. Right? Right out of the gate, the Four Noble Truths. Number 1 is not a half smile. Right? Oh my God. But the response to that can be a half smile. Oh, that changes our relationship with everything. Do you feel how now there's no more antagonism? Reality is something it's not something I have to fight with. It's not something I have to defeat. It's not something I have to outwit. It's not even something I have to grok. You don't have to understand it all the way down in order to smile at it. You don't. All of us smile at it. We smile at it all the time. We don't know we're smiling at all of reality, But when you meet somebody's little 9-month-old and they go, and they've got like Cheerios glued to their face with milk, and your response is, boom. You've just responded to everything with a smile. It's everything in the form of a toddler with Cheerios glued to his face, but it's still everything. And in that moment you went, you affirmed all of it. And the cool thing about that moment is you didn't think about doing that. And you didn't think, I'm going to be really deep and Buddhist right now and respond with a half smile to the nature of the cosmos. No, man. You just saw a kid with a Cheerio stuck to his face and went, that's funny. Bang. Buddha just said yes to all of reality in that moment. That's what happened in that moment. That's you. That's your life. Wow. I also realize that the opposite is true. I also understand that you've wept in the face of reality. I know. Me too. One of those isn't better than the other. One of those responses isn't winning. How beautiful it is that the highest expressions in our tradition of the awakened heart, the awakened mind, have this gently accepting half smile that says, yeah, I know, I see all of it. The First Noble Truth is here. Unexpected death is here. Cancer diagnoses are here. Loneliness and heartbreak is here. And the smile shows up. I need to be reminded of this. So that half smile matters a lot to me. It is a soft smile. You can feel it when you look at it. You can also feel that it's steady. This is my projection, you guys. This picture might not be doing this for you, right? But for me, she's not smiling because right now she's feeling groovy. In my eyes, right? He's smiling because. This, to me, this smile feels outside of time. It feels outside of space. It feels outside of everything. Also inside of everything. But do you feel it? This, to me, feels like a response to reality itself. Not just the mood I'm in right now. I'm currently amused. That's how big this feels to me. Wow. Soft, steady smile. This is kindness. This reassures us something about the nature of reality. This is perhaps an expression of compassion. I will meet what is showing up with the acceptance of a smile. I don't know if you've ever had your grief met with somebody who smiled. Not this, but this. That feels really important to me. That feels like compassion to me. In our tradition, we might say shamatha if we're feeling really Sanskriti. Relaxing. It's calming. It's centering. You can come back home again. I'm offering this to you today because you're meditating today. And when your experience shows up, you can smile. It's possible. This is not a thou shalt. If you can't smile, don't. But please smile at your ability, at your lack of ability to smile. Does that make sense? I can't get to it. I can't get to it. Good, that's fine. But meet that part of you with a smile. If that part of you still says no, that's okay. That's okay. See if you can smile at that part of you. Do you understand what I'm going for here? There's a yes in you somewhere. There's a yes in you somewhere that goes, oh yeah. Look at how cranky he is. God, he hates it, doesn't he? He hates this whole thing. He hates the room. He hates the person next to him breathing too loud. The sounds of the pans in the other room. The sounds of the cars. Oh my God, he just hates it. And he's trying to smile at it and he can't. Wow, he sucks at this. Oh my God, and there's the voice. Oh, you suck at this. Oh, and I know what that voice goes back to. Oh, I'm trying to smile. I can't smile at that either. Oh, right. Oh, there's a human being in the room. Hey, bud. Hey, bud. Rough one, huh? Yeah. Yeah. Rough one. You and me both. That's okay. You don't have to change anything. You don't have to change anything. Just sit there and do it. That's okay. That's okay. Wow. Bam. That's how big your yes is. That's actually who you are. The person you're being kind to is going, gone. But the yes, the big yes, that's who you really are. All right. The body and the smile. So, my question for you in relation to the smile is, who receives your thoughts and emotions? Already you have been sitting. Already you have been walking. Already you have been paying attention to your experience. I'm using the word your with quotations around it, and I'm not going down that road today. That's a whole other deal. But you have been paying attention. You have noticed your body. You have noticed your breath, at least for a couple of seconds today. You have done those things. Further, I'm going to guess you've noticed some emotions. Positive, negative. You've noticed something. And finally, you've noticed some of this. Right? Up here, storytelling, narrative, commentary, Whatever. You've noticed some thoughts. Okay. My question is, what's the nature of your noticer today? Who is that noticer? And what is the nature of that noticer? There isn't an answer here. I'm not asking you to answer this. I'm just asking you to hold that idea. Who's noticing? Right? The thing you think of as you is what's being noticed. Right? But there's something else happening, which is the noticer. So I'm curious. I hope you are curious about who's receiving those, who's noticing. And to get a little more specific, what's the nature of the noticer? I'm asking you this question because I've already given you the answer. This is where the smile took me. My feeling about Manjushri holding Prajnaparamita is that no matter what I told her, the smile would not change. That's my sense. No matter how deep my shame was, no matter how great my anger was, no matter how profound my confusion was, that the smile would not change, because the nature of the noticer is divine. She's a bodhisattva. I can't scare her away. There's nothing I could possibly tell her that would cause her to look away or that would cause that smile to disappear. I am being seen, I am being beheld thoroughly, all the way down. And all of it is still being regarded with that smile. I'm just inviting you to remember that that's the nature of your noticer. It's possible. It's already happening, but it's possible. All right. Katagiri Roshi said, Zazen is giving yourself to yourself. I probably read that 30 years ago for the first time. I'm still unpacking that one. Very simple sentence. I didn't like it for quite a while. I don't know, maybe you guys like this Zen stuff. But I fight with it, man. As soon as I hear the new thing, I'm like, oh, shut up, I hate that. Right? And then 20 years later, I'm like, oh yeah. That's like a hot tub, baby. I want to get in that every day. I love it. Oh, you're so good at this. Sorry about the last 20. Ooh. Zazen is giving yourself to yourself. Oh, it's so reductive, and it sounds so ugh. Right? And now I'm like, wow. Oh. Zazen is giving yourself to yourself. The reason I'm quoting that in the emptiness class is because we have a verse that we chant before we have meals here at Zen Center during formal session retreats here. The emptiness of the three wheels, giver, receiver, and gift. The idea being there's going to be a person who's going to come in this room in a few minutes and they're going to give you something, rice. They're going to give you something, tofu. They're going to give you vegetables. They're going to give you something, right? And you're the one who's receiving that because you're going to put your bowl out with your hands held a certain way. And so the person giving and you receiving and then the rice, those are the three wheels, the giver, the receiver, and the gift. And we chant before they do that, they're empty. They're not separate. There's only one thing happening here. And the idea that my human consciousness, very usefully, but still fictionalizes what's happening into, oh, those are three separate things. There's a giver, and there's a receiver, and there's a gift. Isn't that nice? That's fine. It's conventional. It's useful. It's what my teacher calls a necessary fiction. Kind of helpful. But the chant before we have the meal reminds us these things are empty. There is no separation. There is only one thing happening. Zazen is giving yourself to yourself. Ooh, I'm feeling that in a different way. You're going to sit Zazen again when I eventually shut up. In about 40 more minutes, you'll be doing the same thing you've already been doing today. You are being offered. Is that right? That feels right. You're receiving you. What else are you paying attention to? Of course. And you're what's being offered and received. You are the giver. Literally. I mean, think about this. You can use your brain. You are the giver. You are the receiver. and you are the gift. All three of those things are happening at the same time. And one thing is happening. Wow. Zazen is giving yourself to yourself. So that's what we do. I like it because even though it sounds like Katagiri's words at first are describing one person relating only to one person, which is correct on one level, we understand that the context in which this instruction is being given is the context of emptiness, which means non-separateness, and the context of compassion. So putting that practically, tend to your own wounds first. Okay? Tend to your own wounds first. Because there isn't a your or another, and there isn't a first or a not. But your ego has to hear this. So from ego, language, perspective, tend to your own wounds first. The rest takes care of itself. Does that make sense? If you're telling a server in the other room, here's how we serve oryoki, here's how we serve during a sesshin, there's a way of doing it, you're going to talk about what's about to happen using the language of separateness. You're going to hold the thing like this, and you're going to hold it up at eye level, and there's a way that you're going to do this. And so they have in their head that there is a giver and a receiver and a gift, and those three things are separate because it's really useful for them to know it in that moment, right? And then later you can say, there was no separation between anything that just happened, and that was the universe giving the universe to the universe. Right? Zazen is giving yourself to yourself. That is a true teaching. That is a correct teaching. And how that might show up for you today is tend to your own wounds first. It keeps it from being woo. Does that make sense? Yeah. All right, the last thing I'm going to talk about is the sword. The reason I handed this image out to the class, two reasons. I'm giving a class on Prajnaparamita, I'm giving a class on emptiness, right? Prajnaparamita, the perfection of wisdom, is the teaching of emptiness. I thought it was cool that there was a sword called Prajnaparamita just because that's kind of a rock star thing, right? Damn, that's pretty cool. But the reason that I sent out this image was because of the hand. I just couldn't get over it. Her right hand. I went, oh my God, the whole teaching is right there. Whoever sculpted this was brilliant. The hand is so gentle. People don't hold swords like that, guys. Right? You grab on tight. Can you feel it? That's how you hold a sword. It's a sword. Something is about to go down. You hold a sword like you're not kidding, right? But here's our image of engaged compassion in the form of wisdom. Remember, this is Manjushri. You're like, wow, this is part of a religion where like one of their deals is somebody holding a sword? I thought this was all about peace and love, baby. Come on, I read Dharma bums. What's the deal here? Look at the hand. That's the deal here. The smile and the hand show you exactly how much danger you're in. Right? That's how we hold wisdom in this tradition. The hand is very, very soft and it's very, very gentle. Her posture, her smile, and her grip on that sword shows you she is here to be trusted. You should get as close to her as you can. If she's got to use that thing, you're going to be so grateful that she did. Because there's something that you need to see. That's why you came to a Zendo today. There's something that you need to understand. That's what the sword is for. You have a cancer that needs to be cut out. I'm not talking about violence at all. That's why the smile and the posture and the hand are so important. There is no violence happening here. But there is truth happening here. There is truth happening here. And that's why we need the sword. Because when you see the lie show up, and you will, if you sit long enough, you'll see it. It takes a million different forms. There's only one lie, but it's okay. It takes a million different forms. You'll want to go, oh, I see you. Whew, that's not true. Can you feel that sword, what they say about this sword is it cuts both halves into one. That's what they say about Prajnaparamita. The sword cuts both halves into one. It takes life and it gives life. Don't worry about it. We're playing a game here. No one's getting hurt. Even the lie isn't excluded. It's just healed. It's just illuminated. It's just you seeing it, and then you go, oh, I see you. Poof. Freedom. It doesn't even need to leave. It can just sit there. Sit. Sit. You can feel it. Sit. There you go. All right. No, you don't get to drive. Sit. There you go. Poor little guy, so scared. All right, lies always come from fear. Just scared. Oh, I'll just smile at you. So you're not scared anymore. Poof, all by itself. Can you feel it? That's why it cuts both halves into one. Nothing's excluded. Nothing is excluded. So the question around the sword is a little different than the question around the smile. The question around the smile is who receives your thoughts and your emotions? And what's the nature of that noticer? The questions around the sword are a little different. Because the sword is wisdom, the sword is Prajnaparamita. The questions here are, what's true? What's true? It's an interesting thing to ask. Don't spend too much time with this. But perhaps you also want to ask, those thoughts and emotions that I'm receiving, where are they coming from? From where do they arise? What is their source? I find this helpful when my mind is, when my thinking is quite active and quite busy, and I find that afflictive. Thoughts are fine in this tradition. It's fine. But there are times when I experience them as afflictive, and I'm having a difficult time concentrating, and so it's actually a benefit to me to try to still them a little bit so I can get in touch with the feelings underneath them. And so then I like to ask myself questions like, where are these coming from? What is the source of these thoughts? Because that question and the inquiry that follows that question tend, for me, to have the effect of focusing, calming. Where are these coming from? Where are those thoughts coming from? You can experiment with it today. If it doesn't calm you or isn't of help to you, pitch it. This is part of the Vipassana part of our tradition. Deep inquiry. So, I got to start wrapping up here. Understanding someone's suffering is the best gift you can give another person. Understanding is love's other name. If you don't understand, you can't love. I'll say that again. That feels like a big gear shift. It isn't. But it feels like a big gear shift, so I'll say it again. Understanding someone's suffering is the best gift you can give another person. Understanding is love's other name. If you don't understand, you can't love. Thich Nhat Hanh said that. That's Thich Nhat Hanh. I'm quoting. Sounds like a therapist, doesn't it? Isn't that interesting? I love how blurry that line's getting. Oh, man. I'm all about it. What are we talking about? Vipassana and wisdom and Prajnaparamita ultimately are underneath the giant umbrella that we call understanding. Meeting something with kindness, acceptance, non-judgment, inclusiveness is all under the broad umbrella that we call compassion. The yes of compassion is, oh, I see that you're here. It's okay that you're here. Yes, come on in. And the understanding piece is, hey, what's going on? Because mindfulness without understanding, can you feel it? It's not quite there yet. Reverse them. I understand, but I haven't said yes yet. You can feel it. Ain't working. I've said yes, but I don't know what's going on. I know what's going on, but I haven't said yes. Can you feel it? Mindfulness plus understanding, awareness. Now. Compassion plus wisdom equals enlightenment. That's why we say Buddha is enlightenment, and Buddha functions in the field of space and time as the activity of compassion and the activity of wisdom. So I'm just trying to understand. Understanding someone's suffering is the best gift you can give to another person. I bet you know what I'm about to say. Zazen is giving yourself to yourself. Guess who the other person is? Ha ha! I caught you. You thought I was talking about your partner, or your mom, or your dad, or your cat, or your neighbor. I was not. I was talking about you. Zazen is giving yourself to yourself. Understanding someone's suffering is the best gift you can give them. It's love's other name. Please fall in love with your suffering. It's a high bar. In Zen, we have no agenda but awareness, and awareness itself has no agenda. You can see it in the statue. Does she have an agenda? No, she does not. She's just fine. Look at your Bodhisattva picture again. You can see it all there. Despite the reality of dukkha, despite the existence of suffering, reality is good and true and beautiful. We have a practice. We have a thing to do. Intimacy. No gap. Be truthful and loving with all that is not truthful and loving. Our suffering met with our compassion. Our delusions met with truth. That's all. That's Zen. The encounter of Zazen is one defined by reverence. That's the only reason what we're doing here today is not secular. Don't kid yourself. It's way bigger than that. The encounter of Zazen is one defined by reverence. I just said, it's you giving yourself to yourself, and then I said, that's the functioning of love. If you want to frame that as secular, go for it. I'm just reminding you, you're bigger than that. So let's spend the rest of our day sitting up straight. Don't be rigid. I mean, look at her. She's not rigid. She's not rigid at all. She's upright. He's totally upright. He's just not rigid. We'll sit up straight together. We'll smile kindly at what we notice. That's what they're doing. Look at the expression on their face. Smiling kindly. And we will hold our wisdom, our Prajnaparamita, gently. We'll redeem it all. You can do that in one day. Isn't that weird to think you could redeem your entire life in one day? You could redeem your entire life in one breath. All of it. Just being welcomed into the light. Wow. That's who you are. That's the power of your posture and your smile and your sword. I thank you for your practice and your attention. And we are going to re-enter the schedule here. It's 11 o'clock, so...